In this podcast episode, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon shares profound insights on aging, muscle health, and longevity, emphasizing the critical role that skeletal muscle plays beyond aesthetics. She explores the mindset shifts necessary to adopt a sustainable, forever strong lifestyle and details practical strategies for overcoming mental roadblocks that inhibit progress. Dr. Lyon also delves into the importance of clarity around personal motivation, the cultivation of neutrality in emotional responses, and how understanding one's capacity and growth zones can lead to lasting transformation. Throughout the conversation, the focus remains on empowering individuals, especially women, to take control of their health through muscle-centric practices supported by mental resilience. Dr. Lyon underscores skeletal muscle as the true organ of longevity, challenging outdated perceptions that muscle is solely about physical appearance, such as being jacked and tan. With aging populations growing, muscle maintenance and development have become more important than ever, particularly for women. She asserts the necessity of a muscle mandate, a cultural shift recognizing muscle's integral role in health span. This mandate involves replacing superficial approaches like fad diets or outdated exercise trends with evidence-based practices emphasizing protein intake and resistance training. Muscle health is not isolated from overall well-being, but instead serves as the gateway to maintaining function, vitality, and independence in later years. One of the major challenges Dr. Lyon identifies is the common misconception that motivation must be fiery and constant before taking action. She explains that people often wait for a surge of enthusiasm to start or sustain health behaviors, which is unrealistic and unsustainable. Rather, aging is inevitable, but weakness is a choice, and strength must be seen not as a luxury, but as a responsibility. Dr. Lyon introduces the concept of neutrality, a mindset that avoids the extremes of being overly hyped or overly defeated. Neutrality fosters steadiness, allowing people to recover quickly from setbacks without emotional swings that derail progress. This balanced mental state forms the foundation for consistent action. Quoting from her book, Dr. Lyon describes the mind as the command center and the most powerful ally in achieving desired life outcomes. Awareness is the first rep in mental discernment and mastery. She notes that many people have an abundance of information through books or media, but lack the compelling mindset needed to act. The key is not to chase motivation, but to cultivate necessity through a surprisingly neutral way of thinking. Being neutral means acknowledging obstacles or failures without dramatizing them, allowing focus to shift back to the task at hand. This mindset rigorously differentiates between useful and irrelevant thoughts, recognizing that not every internal narrative deserves attention or influence. Dr. Lyon illustrates neutrality with relatable examples, such as habituating to situations with built-in friction, like flipping a coin to decide whether to get a coffee. This purposeful restriction generates indifference, reducing emotional highs and lows tied to immediate gratification. She relates a personal story about a friend caught in an unproductive cycle of dieting and binging, showing how lacking neutrality leads to harsh self-blame and derailment. Instead, neutrality encourages recognizing setbacks as just another Tuesday, dissolving the emotional weight and enabling immediate return to goals. This practice neutrality builds emotional resilience, reduces stress, and fosters discipline. When caught in negative or obsessive thought loops, Dr. Lyon recommends specific physiological interventions to unhijack oneself from unproductive mental states. The simplest method is the physiological sigh, slow breathing in 4-count intervals, to trigger parasympathetic relaxation. If breathwork is insufficient, she advocates for intense physical exertion, such as high-intensity interval training or sprinting, which commandeer attention through muscle use and interrupt mental spirals. She emphasizes muscle as the organ system over which we have voluntary control and describes how leveraging physical strength can quickly reset mental state, creating an aligned mind-body pathway to regain focus and execute next steps. Understanding one's why is a critical guidepost that sustains long-term commitment and helps navigate inevitable dark or difficult moments. Dr. Lyon draws parallels from Navy SEAL training, where only those with deeply meaningful reasons persevere through extreme adversity. Superficial goals, such as appearance or temporary achievement, rarely provide lasting motivation. Instead, profound, often personally connected reasons, like honoring a loved one's memory or serving family, create a durable anchor for resilience. She advises turning off external noise, including social media distractions, to cultivate this core motivation. When the why is aligned and powerful, decision-making becomes easier and more consistent. Dr. Lyon addresses the interplay between having a strong why and maintaining neutrality in mindset. Neutrality does not imply passivity or lack of drive. Rather, it enables measured intensity. She uses the metaphor of driver's education. The why functions as the vehicle's accelerator, driving forward, while neutrality acts as the skilled hand on the brakes and steering wheel to control speed and direction. Moments of fierce focus and effort, whether in work or life, are turned on deliberately and then turned off promptly to avoid burnout. This dynamic management facilitates longevity and commitment and allows people to engage fully without emotional exhaustion. The conversation touches on the danger of oscillating between self-praise and self-blame, as both are forms of attachment that can hijack mental stability. Dr. Lyon suggests shifting toward acknowledgement over celebration or condemnation to stabilize internal emotional energy. Using balanced relationships as an example, she highlights how external environments can influence well-being. Developing the habit of neutral responses and emotional discernment fosters healthier interaction patterns with oneself and others, and reduces the risk of being derailed by the highs and lows of achievement and setback cycles. Exploring how to continue growth, Dr. Lyon introduces the concept of capacity versus challenge. On a graph, the vertical axis represents capacity while the horizontal axis represents challenge. Growth occurs when people intentionally stretch toward challenges that push the upper limit of their current capacity without overwhelming it. Staying too comfortable leads to stagnation, while taking on too much causes breakdown. Identifying this growth zone requires honest self-assessment of where one currently stands and where they want to progress. Examples include improving new skills like writing or communication that fall outside one's comfort zone but are attainable with effort and practice. Much like physical fitness, mental discipline is built through consistent small actions. Dr. Lyon advocates for recognizing and labeling negative or unhelpful thoughts, treating them as just thoughts rather than truths. She describes a technique of writing down these thoughts, then physically discarding them as a symbolic release. This micro-practice strengthens mental discernment, allowing individuals to more easily choose right thoughts and follow through with right actions, cultivating confidence and discipline. The process builds freedom from being controlled by automatic, irrelevant mental chatter, and freedom to make intentional decisions aligned with goals. Dr. Lyon stresses that focusing on muscle without intention or mindset is insufficient. The science behind protein consumption and resistance training must be coupled with mental mastery for real transformation. Skeletal muscle is unique as the only organ over which we have voluntary control, making it the most effective lever for influencing both physical and mental resilience. Physical strength training triggers neurochemical and psychological responses that empower agency over thought patterns. Whether through resistance training or dietary changes, coupling these practices with mental discernment creates sustainable health improvements and a cultural shift toward a stronger, longer-lived population. Throughout the discussion, Dr. Lyon emphasizes the distinction between being informed and being inspired. Information alone rarely motivates action. True change demands education combined with inspiration, rooted in clarity of purpose and emotional steadiness. The forever strong ethos she promotes encapsulates this principle. Aging is inevitable, but physical and mental weakness is a choice. Being consistently forward-moving requires awareness, discipline, and intentionality. Those who integrate these components create momentum not from fleeting highs, but sustained, balanced efforts aligned with deep personal meaning.